There's a fun thing that happens to me whenever I play any video game, and it's so bad that I almost just want to not ever play any video game ever again, and that is, you get excited about a game, you play it and you're kicking ass and taking names and all the things, and you get to a point where you sort of plateau. Either the game has run out of content, or you're at the point where everything left is just kind of trivial and why bother, or it's an open sandbox type of game like Minecraft or whatever, and you're like, you've built a bunch of stuff, it's not challenging, why? And what terrifies me in particular about this is that it doesn't matter what type of game it is. Eventually you get to that point where you're like, I know how this goes, I know how to do this, I'm not, you get to a point where you stop and you take stock, you're like, I've put in a bunch of time and effort into this, and now I just gotta kinda abandon it. And then the little part of my brain that's a jackass goes, it's kinda like life. What? How could you say that to me? Now all I am going to be doing is thinking about how life is just spinning around in this hamster wheel, and eventually you just go, I'm done spinning on the hamster wheel and I have nothing at all to show for it. I think that's the thing that I'm most terrified of. Not dying. I'm totally cool with dying. I was dead long before I was born, and you know what? I was pretty good at it. I think I'm very well prepared. But the whole idea of knowing that there's this inevitable demise and you're gonna get there, and everything that you have done doesn't, it's just logging off of the game and never playing that character again. All of the trinkets and all of the titles and all of the rep grinds that you have done will not help you when you log off of the game. It's just gonna sit there and rot and be useless. So I'm a proactive type guy, right? I go, okay, I'm afraid of this. How can I fix this problem so that it's not something I'll be super concerned with anymore? I was like, well, you know what? The singularity, the time when we can take our consciousnesses and put them into computers and theoretically live forever, and that's gonna be awesome. But I was thinking about this, and if you were to copy the electrical signals and the memes and everything that kind of make up my personality and put it into a computer, what happens to the physical version? If we just leave it around, then I've just made a double of me. And then the perceptual me, the me that thinks that it's inside of my brain watching everything happen, is gonna be like, I'm still a person, I'm not a computer. This didn't work. Meanwhile, me, in all the same sense, is going to be in the computer, be like, this totally worked! I am invincible, I am immortal, it is brilliant. But I'm nervous that that little guy that doesn't exist, that's in my brain, watching everything happen, isn't going to transfer over. And by the same token, we go, okay, well, why would we have two of me? Why not transfer everything and then shut down the brain thing? Then what happens to that little guy inside of my brain? He's just gone. He's just... And the funny thing is that consciousness and identity is thought to be really just a delusion of sorts to help us, because the reason that we think of ourselves as being in our minds as opposed to being our minds is because it helps us with empathy. It helps us imagine what would it be like to be someone else. If we weren't able to do that, we wouldn't be able to interact. It's an evolutionary advantage, blah, 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 blah. And I know it's wrong, but I can't not think that way. So now, right, I'm back where we started. Even if we were to just unlock the secrets of immortality within my lifetime, I can take no solace in the fact that I could avail myself of it, because to me, that's just a clone of me. That's not the me. And so I am going to die. I am going to become insignificant, and everything that I have done will cease to be significant. And I'm totally fine with just not being around, but the whole idea of spending all of this time working toward not being around, it's an existential crisis. It's not a rational thing, but for me, it's my biggest fear, and it's one of the things that I hate about video games, because every time you invest time and energy and you get to a point where you say, I guess I'm done. I guess I will just leave this. It's not like you can go and play one game and say, hey, look, I got a high score here. Let me take that high score and throw it into another game so I can get a kickstart up there. It doesn't transfer. That's not how life works either. I don't get to say, here's my score in life, let's transfer that to something else. It's just done. You just log off and it's gone. I'm afraid of a lot of things. I'm afraid of unleashed dogs. I'm afraid of falling into a manhole, but those are neuroses, right? And to an extent, maybe I'm afraid of the idea of not being around anymore, the idea of dying and just ceasing to be. But what absolutely, utterly terrifies me is the thought that it is impossible for me to do anything significant given that my life is finite. It fills me with dread and despair, and I need to work through that. But it's a question that I think is something we can all talk about. Not necessarily mortality and blah blah blah, because that's dark and kind of narrow, I guess. But really, what are your fears? Maybe you don't spend a lot of time thinking stupid existential thoughts. It's not a productive way to spend your life. But maybe you're terrified of public speaking, and maybe you want to talk about that. Or maybe you are terrified of lemons, and this would be a great way to get that off your chest and come out as a lemon-phobe. There's probably a word. I wish I knew the Latin word for lemon. Terror. It's a fun thing. What are your fears, guys? Go.